can I help her be safer? Leaving can end the violence. When it does not, however, the continuing violence may become more severe than for women who never tried to leave. A victim's attempt to leave was the precipitating factor in 45% of the murders of a woman by a man. On average, more than 3 women are murdered by their husbands or boyfriends in this country every day. 61% of female homicide victims were wives or intimates of their killers. Everyone involved with a victim who is planning to leave or has left her abusive partner needs to take it very seriously. Leaving is the ultimate challenge to an abuser's sense of power and control. Many abusers will increase their abusive and violent behaviors in a desperate attempt to get her back. If the abuser increases his violence without regard to legal or social consequences, the chances of serious assault increase significantly. For example, he might try to strangle her in public or start hitting her and making marks where people can see them. Victims may also face increased danger when they pursue legal remedies, such as obtaining protective orders or filing for divorce. Safety planning is essential whether she plans to leave or not. This section will help provide guidelines for putting together a safety plan. It's important to remember that some victims won't be able to leave right away. Never push her into leaving. She's the best judge of the time to take certain actions. Simply provide her with supportive words and help her with her safety planning. Victims planning to leave an abuser need to make preparations, such as saving money, finding a new place to live, and exploring many other forms of support and assistance.
Ruth, let's make you a safety plan. How about it?
A safety plan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that, but it made sense. I wasn't going to be able to leave in a day. I needed to hatch a plan. By now, I knew that I couldn't control my husband, and I sure knew he wasn't going to change. But I could control what I did about it.
$9.
So together, Hope and I planned which door I'd use to escape. And if I couldn't get out that door, I'd go to the window in Tim's room. I planned how I'd get out of the kitchen or the bathroom if a fight broke out.
Now that's a safety plan.
Well, there's too many, sharp objects and things in the kitchen and bathroom that can be used as weapons. Yeah. I started keeping the keys and my purse right next to the door. And I hid copies of the car key in a can under the front porch so that, if I had to leave quick, I'd be ready.
That's smart.
I taught the kids how to call Hope, and we came up with the code word wax. Wax. Hope knew the word too, and, if we used it, then she'd come. Or send the sheriff if I needed to leave.
Oh, it's okay, Mom.
If she didn't hear from me for more than 2 days, she'd drive out, and if she saw 2 of my red towels hanging on the clothesline, she was to call the sheriff. So by now I knew it was only a matter of time, before I left for good. So I gave a little bit of money and some of Timmy's medication to Hope to hang on to for me. And the next time I went up to school for a parent-teacher conference, I made copies of important papers, like especially our birth certificates. And even though I did not have squat, I saved $1 out of every grocery bill and put it with the spare key under the porch.
Getting that self-esteem back.
I left some of the extra clothes, for me and Jana and Tim at Hope's house, just in case we had to leave quick and didn't have time to pack. I also got the number of the shelter from the hotline and memorized it. When the time came, I was ready to go.
These are some tips for a victim that you can share with her to plan for safety. Tell your children that, if there's violence, their job is to stay safe, not protect you. Find a safe place for them to stay in case of violence, such as with a neighbor or in a locked room. Teach them to call 911 and what to say to the dispatcher. Hide money, spare keys, and clothes at work or at a friend's house. For small children, hide a favorite toy or stuffed animal that will comfort them. Inform your employer about the situation and develop a safety plan at work. Share a photo and description of the abuser with them and any pertinent legal documentation, such as a protection order. Document the abuse by taking photos of bruises and injuries. Tell your doctor and get copies of your medical records. Save threatening voicemails, notes, and emails, and write each incident down in a journal. Put together important documents or copies of passports, birth certificates, Social Security cards, insurance papers, work permits or green cards, ownership documents for your car or home, checkbooks, credit cards, and bank account numbers. Hide these papers at work or at a friend's house. Know the abuser's Social Security number, birth date, and place of birth. Consider obtaining a protection order. It directs the abuser not to contact, attack, sexually assault, or telephone you, your children, and other family members. If you have a protection order, carry a copy of it with you at all times. Call a local domestic violence program or the National Domestic Violence Hotline for referrals to get legal assistance. If she is in an emergency and needs to get out right away, she shouldn't worry about the items on this list. While they're helpful to have, getting out safely is always the first priority. If a victim is in immediate danger, call 911. Every time a victim's situation changes, she should review and revise the safety plan.
I went straight to the shelter with my kids after school. I had packed up everything we needed, including the documents listed on my safety plan, and we stayed there for 6 weeks so I could get a protective order, file for a divorce, and get an apartment.
At my best friend's house, I left extra outfits and shoes for the kids and me, and their birth certificates with some extra money.
In the month before I left, I took important papers to work with me every day and made photocopies.
My neighbor, kids, and I worked out a system that if they saw a specific flower pot on my front porch, they knew to call the sheriff.
When I left, I wrote a note saying the kids and I needed a break for a couple of days and would be back. Actually, I had already rented an apartment in another town and had just packed the minimum of what we would need to start over because I didn't want to tip him off that we were gone for good.
I've been keeping a journal of my partner's abuse of me, listing the bruises and injuries, even keeping photographs. I also saved his threatening voicemails on my cell phone and emails and wrote them down in my journal.
I told my boss about my husband abusing me. I also gave her a copy of the protective order and a photo of my husband.
There are different safety concerns to be addressed if a victim is planning on staying, as she's preparing to leave, if she leaves, if she goes to court, after she leaves the abuser, and additional concerns if she lives in a rural area. Special safety plans can be developed for children, teens, and stalking victims. Staying in a domestic violence shelter is an option. There are nearly 2,000 local domestic violence programs across the country. Domestic violence programs provide services to male victims as well. While a male victim will not stay in the shelter with the female victims, accommodations will be made in motels or safe homes. There are steps that can be taken to increase her safety and reduce her risk for further danger. Safety planning is essential, and you can help by listening, describing the steps to create a safety plan, and making referrals to agencies and individuals who offer direct assistance. Help her be safe by recognizing the problem, providing emotional support, and providing critical referrals to experts such as advocates at the National Domestic Violence Hotline and at local crisis hotlines who can assist with safety planning and other services.